listeners, to another episode of Saturday Night Cinema. As always, I'm your host, Sawyer St. Sin. And you might be asking yourself, Sawyer, where are you? This isn't your normal background. Well, I wanted to do something a little bit different today since we are talking about some feline horror. I've got some of my lovely feline artwork, my kitty cat lamp. So, tonight we're going to be talking about the Uncanny. You know, it's one of those great anthology movies, three little stories in one, a la, Creepshow and Tales from the Hood, classics, right? So, The Uncanny premiered August 24th, 1977 at the Montreal Film Festival. I want to go ahead and say this right off the bat. I've been trying to find this movie and watch this movie for, 5-6 years, and it's been hard to come across. So, guys, head on over to Tubi and watch it before it's gone. Actually, you know what? Just go head on over to Tubi to watch so many horror movies. So many. They've put up every night I've been watching a different horror movie on there, and it's just been fabulous. And I'm not getting sponsored by them to tell you to go over there and see it. I'm just saying, Tubi's the best right now. Anyways, on with the show. So, of course, there was one director for all of the scenes, Dennis Hero, but that's a French spelling of, it's not hero, it's a French spelling. Anyways, I digress. And the writer, the screenplay was done by Michael Perry. And we're going to take this episode, again, a little bit differently since it is broken up into 3 stories. I'm going to go over the cast by the different stories within the movie. So first, we'll talk about the 2 characters that we see. We get to meet Peter Cushing as Wilbur. Now, Wilbur is a author, and he likes to write more true accounts of different things. I guess in today's world he would be more considered a conspiracy theorist. He had talked to his publisher, Frank Richards, who is played by Ray Millard, about different things getting published. UFO stories, and just a bunch of different things that in the 70s was not really he's who's gonna buy this? No one reads this. So his latest book that he has written is about cats, and not just cats, cute and cuddly, sit in your lap and purr cats. We're talking about killer cats, ones that are out for vengeance, to right wrongs. And I don't know, in some cases they were righting wrongs. I guess in every case they were a little bit vigilante, killer cats. We're gonna get into some fun. So first we see Peter, Wilbur, I should say. He's being followed by this cute little black cat over to his publisher's house. And then he gets to his publisher's house and realizes that he has a cat. And that cat is just gorgeous. It's long hair, white, just absolutely fabulous. And he is visibly freaked out that there's a cat here. And we see him progressively getting more freaked out by the cat. So he provides police reports to his first story of the book, which is London, 1912. Our cast for this is Miss Joan Greenwood, who plays Miss Milken. And Miss Milken just had a stroke, and so she's bedridden, and this lady is rich, like rich beyond rich beyond rich. And I think she has like 20 plus cats that live in her house with her. She has a lot of cats. Like, they're everywhere. And then we have Roland Carvel, I don't know why I can't say that. Carvel, as Wallace. And Wallace is her lawyer. He's come over to redo her will because she doesn't want her highfalutin nephew to spend all of her dang money before, you know. She said that he's already spent enough of it. And when she dies, he might as well just be poor. And she's going to give all of the fortune to the cats. The house, the money, everything goes to the cats. And so, while she's speaking to the lawyer, her housekeeper, who is Janet, played by Miss Susan Pillegon. She comes in and is like gonna put away some, laundry. And she's like, "Not now, girl. Can't you see I'm busy? Like, go feed the cats." And so she does. And then we see that, like, while Mr. Wallace is putting the new copy of the will into the safe, Janet is peeking in to see where it is and where, Miss Milken keeps the combination. And she also steals a copy of it from the lawyer's briefcase. Yeah. And we see that Miss Janet is going out to dinner and having a good time with the nephew Michael, who is played by Salmon Williams. Yeah, Salmon Williams. And she gives him a copy of the will, and he reads it, and he realizes that she's just going to give him enough money for one last nice dinner at a fancy restaurant, because that's going to be the last one he ever gets. So he gets mad and he rips up the will, and, they make a plan to get the other copy of the will so that he can rip it up so that no one has a copy of it. No one. So Janet goes that evening and tries to get the other copy of the will. And when she tries, like, the cats wake up the old lady. Well, what is Janet to do? She's caught her trying to, like, steal the wheel. So she grabs a pillow and suffocates her. Well, in all of this, she drops the will on the floor, and the cats become real mad. Like, real mad. I don't know if they realize that, like, she was trying to take fortune away from them. Because that's what it seemed like, that they, like, understood what people were talking about. But, like, or is it just that they were pissed because, like, you just killed their owner that they love? Anyways, the cats start attacking. And then she, like, barricades herself in the pantry for, like, 2 days until she starts to hear that the cats have gone. So she gets out of the pantry and she goes upstairs to see that the cats have now started eating poor Miss Dead Milken. Just ate her face off, y'all. Terrifying. Just See, this is why I don't have pets, y'all. This is why I don't have pets. So she goes to get the now blood-soaked Will from the cats, and they attack again, and this time they kill her. She like falls down the steps, and the lawyer's trying to call the house, and no one answers, and she's trying so hard to get there. But next we see, Michael and the lawyer and the police show up, and they see the poor dead girl's body laying there at the end of the steps. And so Michael, for some reason, without the policeman or anybody, goes upstairs to his aunt's room, and he sees the will on the floor, and he's like, I'm gonna get this before anyone comes up here. And then it took one cat to take him out. The cat went for the jugular, telling you. Like, he hit that one artery, Michael gone before the other ones could come up the stairs. Nuts. Just crazy. And also, like, I mean, what's wrong with y'all cats? Like, someone was gonna have to take care of you in that big old house. Like, you just can't fend for yourselves. We saw that y'all ended up just, like, eating your, like, owner. So, couldn't y'all just, like, chill, hang out? I don't know. Anyways. So then it cuts back to Wilbur. And, Frank is just like, just blowing off the police reports. Doesn't really, believe anything. And then, like, his cat starts meowing, and, like, he's like, I'm gonna let him outside to do what he needs to do. And Peter's like, no, because, Peter's paranoid that the cats are talking to each other. And so he's like, well, he's not gonna do what he needs to do in here. But, I mean, it turns out that the cat is, like, talking to a couple other cats outside, I mean, he wasn't being paranoid for no reason. So then we move to our second story of a missing girl. And it is in a Quebec province in 1975. So our cast here is Alexandria Stewart as Mrs. Blake, Donald Pillin as Mr. Blake. We have Chloe Franks as Angelina. Now listen, y'all, this kid, ugh, I don't see how anyone could deal with a kid like this. I'd have to, it would take some strong medication for me to deal with this kid. And then we have Katrina Holden Bronson as Lucy. And she has this adorable little cat named Wellington, and he's just precious. He's the cutest little black cat with the cutest little green eyes. Sorry. Alright, so we are introduced to Lucy and Mr. Wellington. In unfortunate circumstances, she lost her mother in a plane crash. And her cat is the only thing she has. And they're sending her to live with her aunt and her uncle and that little brat of a kid. So the first thing that we get to see of Angelina, she's showing Lucy to her new room. And she points out that her room is the smallest room because she doesn't belong there. My room's bigger because I belong here. Ugh. Oh my God, guys. I've never wanted, like, something bad to happen to a child before. But in this movie, I was just every turn wishing. Anyways. So as time goes on, like, Angelina is getting more and more, like, irritated with Lucy and Wellington. because her mom's never let her have a pet, because her mom is so against it. They're like, they're dirty and they disrupt the household and they're just terrible, in other words. So like her mom is, I mean, Mrs. Blake is all about getting rid of that cat as soon as possible. So the first incident is Angelina's like grabs Wellington and she's like, you're my friend now, because like, you know, I live in, like, you know, I belong in this house and everything in this house belongs to me. You're mine. And Wellington, like, you know, jumps out and hisses and runs back to Lucy. Oh, also Lucy has a stack of like witchcraft books that were her mom's. Mrs. Blake doesn't like that either. And then they're like, you know, I mean, after that happens with Wellington, Angela, or she's like, Angelina, I'm sorry, she's mad. She's like ticked. So she has this like big ass model airplane that her and her dad built. And she starts like dive bombing it onto Lucy, saying like, you know, you don't have a mommy and daddy, and just being very rude. Just, ugh. Poor kid, hasn't she already been through enough? Like, you know, she doesn't have anybody, and you're being a jerk. So, cut to them having like a arts and crafts time, painting time, in the tea room, and like Lucy leaves to go show Miss Blake her painting, and the brat child is still in the tea room, and Wellington like jumps away from her because she's trying to like pet him, and you know, kind of like Angelica from the Rugrats, just like being real aggressive. So in the process, she knocks over red paint all onto the floor. Well, of course, that's just about the time that Miss Blake walks in. And of course, the brat child blames it on the cat. Yeah. And so she's like, one more issue and the cat's gone. Anyways. So then cut to another time that they're having issues. Lucy and Wellington are playing outside on a, what seems to be cold Quebec night. And that brat of a child again gets an idea, and she starts flying the remote control airplane and dive bombing it onto Lucy and Wellington. You know, I mean, Lucy has to hit the ground sometimes so that it doesn't hit her in the head. And so Lucy like runs away from it after like, you know, so many attacks from it, and runs into the house. Well, the remote on the remote on the airplane stops working, and it just crashes right into the side of the house and breaks a window. But for some reason, like Mrs. Blake doesn't hear it, I guess, doesn't realize that there was a window broken. All that she's worried about is, why is Lucy so dirty? And, you know, brat child comes down and she's like, oh, it's because she was chasing around the cat because it wouldn't come to her. You know, Miss Blake is like, that cat has to go. So Mr. Blake like takes the cat and off early one morning, and I'm supposed to take him and get him, you know, euthanized, which I think is terrible. Like, it's a healthy like cat. Like, someone would love to have that cat as a pet. Don't just take it to like get it put to sleep. It's horrible. And also, like, while the child is sleeping, like, she wakes up and can't find her cat. Again, for someone who just lost her mother and has nobody else, like, that is horrible to do to a child. So, Lucy goes, you know, all day trying to find Wellington after the father done took him away. And that's when her bratty cousin is like, Daddy took him. And she runs into the house screaming, no! And cut to that night, she's laying in bed. We see that Mrs. Blake comes in and grabs the stack of witchcraft books and tosses them into the fire. But she did not see the one that was laying underneath Lucy's pillow. So, in the middle of the night, Mr. Wellington comes back. And he starts prompting Lucy to get the spell book and go out to the tea room. Well, her bratty little cousin notices that the tea room light is on and that Lucy is not in her bedroom. So of course, naturally, she goes to check it out. And Lucy is there with her candles and drawing a pentagram on the floor. And her cousin is like, Mommy is going to be so mad that you've done all of this to the floor. And she's like, oh, just whatever you do, don't step in the middle of the circle. And so, of course, it's exactly what that brat does. She jumps in the middle of the circle. And Lucy is, saying some things from her book. And Angela gets trapped. She gets trapped. What is she going to do? So, Lucy starts chanting some more things from her book. And she begins to shrink her cousin down to the size of a mouse. Just perfect for Wellington to play with. So Wellington, is going to try to get some revenge on that little brat. And she, runs up underneath the couch. And he's, pulling at her and trying to get her out. And Lucy's trying to get her out. And she finds a paintbrush to kind of, stab Wellington in the face with a little bit. And so poor little thing's bleeding. But they get her out from underneath the couch, and she's pleading for her, for her life. Please make me big. I'm so sorry for what I did. But then Miss Blake's car pulls up, and she gets out of the car. She's home. I don't know why she was not in the house late at night. I don't know where. Maybe she works overnight. I don't know. That lady didn't look like she worked at all, if you know what I mean. But so she goes out to the tea room, and before she can get in and see exactly what is going on, Lucy stomps on her annoying little cousin like a bug. And Miss Blake is mad. She's mad because there's a mess and she doesn't like messes. So she cleans up, in lack of a better term, her daughter's remains. But, tells Lucy that things need to be cleaned up. And then just goes into the house. And, they report, their daughter is missing, but she's never been found because she's dead. That's what happens, right? So cut back to our, author and his publisher. The cat is now back inside, and the publisher, he's meowing, or the cat's meowing, and the publisher is like, listen, you're not getting any more milk. You're going on a diet. You're too fat. So it goes and lays down and keeps his eyes on Wilbur. Wilbur's getting increasingly more uncomfortable with that cat. But it leads us to our next story, and he hands the files of the next story over to his publisher. and that is Hollywood, 1936. I feel like I should be doing like Picture It. Hollywood, 1936. Sorry, my Golden Girl fans will know what that is. So we'll start off with basically like the lead, in this segment. Pretty well-known guy. You might know him from a little movie, Halloween. Mr. Donald Pleasance plays Valentine Death. We have the lady who's playing his wife, Madeline. So she's played by Catherine Begin. And then we've got his girlfriend, Samantha Egger. And she plays Anita Hamilton. Like I said, the girlfriend of Mr. Valentine. And then we have John Vernon and Jean Leclerc. Y'all, some of these are French. But John plays like the producer of the movie that they're recording, and Jean is the director of this movie scene. So it kind of starts off very foreboding, right? Like, at the time that it starts, you don't know that they're making a film. But you see Mr. Valentine come in, and he's like, "You will be mine," and just all this mumbo jumbo. As he slowly pulls, a rope down to the tied up Madeline, and it's like the pendulum. Yeah. Somebody, oh no, had replaced the rubber one with a real blade. So Madeline dies. And the director's like, "Cut, it needs to be more realistic. That was so..." And that's when they realize that she's dead because she's not responding to them. And, so the next scene is like the producer and the director talking to like an investigator. And like, it literally seemed like it was just like an hour, and they were like, "Oh, case closed." Sorry, what? Like, who changed the blade? Like, I feel like that takes a little bit more investigation than just like, "Oh, it was a real blade. See ya, bye." I don't see. There are things in movies, like little plot things in movies like that just kind of like, it irritates me. Anyways, so, Valentine's like, "Hey, I know this person. She would be great. She looks exactly like Madeline, just younger. And she's an actress." And so he, introduces them to his side piece, Miss Hamilton. And, we don't know that she's his side piece right now, but, he was like, "Yeah, we saw her in a play and, just thought she was fantastic. She'll be great. And you won't even have to, like, redo any of the scenes because, she looks so much similar, blah, 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 whatever." But, like, so then in the next scene we realize that, oh, well, they planned this. Because he's like sweeping her into his house, and she's talking about, him switching the blade for a real one. And then she's like, "Oh, you have a cat." And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "What's his name?" And he's like, "I call him Scat Cat." And like literally, like he like kicks the cat and says scat. Yeah. Rude, right? So rude. But, he's basically like, "I'm gonna get rid of it because, Madeline liked it." And then we see like them getting ready for bed, and Miss Hamilton's like, "Oh, how How very nice of Madeline to be the same size as me. Y'all, she's wearing this bitch's... Listen, you took... You took the man... I mean, you took the woman's husband. You conspired to kill her. You're in her house, and now you're gonna wear her clothes. I mean, come on now. Disrespectful. Anyways, so cut to another day at filming, and Valentine is having to do a scene where he's sword fighting, and like, you know, they're sword fighting and they're doing this and that and, you know, whatever. Well, the cat's there. Y'all, his cat showed up to this site. Yep, showed up on set and like started chewing through the ropes of one of the lighting. Well, the cat didn't have very good timing because unfortunately he moved out of the way before it hit. But they're like, he's like, I swear, I saw the cat. Like, you know, like, saw the cat. So when they get home, they try to outsmart the cat and trap him, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And we also see that the cat had kittens. And like, you know, Valentine takes those. I'm not sure what he did with the kittens, because that was the only time we saw the kittens. I don't know what he did. But like the cat had also like ripped to shreds the bed that they were sleeping on. Like it was shredded. So before they leave out for the studio the next day, they set a bunch of traps. Like bear traps, y'all, with like fish and different things and some milk laying out, and there was a bottle of poison, and you could see that the cat was trying to figure out like, now what did they put this in? Because I'm really tempted, but I don't know. Yeah. So they're on the set and they're doing the Iron Maiden scene. Y'all know what that is, right? I'm not talking about the band, okay? Not that kind of Iron Maiden. I'm talking about, you know, the coffin-shaped thing with the spikes on both ends, you know. Well, Miss Hamilton, first off, she's a terrible actor. But she's like, ee! Like, it doesn't even seem like she's afraid, y'all. And she's like, well, I can't be afraid when I know that this back door opens, and she just pushes it. And like the directors are just like fed up with her. The producer is like, we're gonna have to get somebody else because she's terrible. So he's like, no, like let me stay with her. I will work with her tonight. We'll stay after everybody leaves. Well, guess what? The cat's back, first off. Okay. And so they're rehearsing again, and she's just not getting it. So Donald, aka Mr. Valentine, gets in and he does the whole like, you know, terrified scream and yell and, you know, just real over the top too, y'all. Real over the top. And she's like, okay, you know, and she tries it. But the cat jumps down on Donald and he loses grip of the rope that, you know, controls how fast the door goes. Well, poor Miss Hamilton gets impaled in the Iron Maiden. He opens the door a little bit and he's like, oh. And then he goes to the back door and notices that like the locking mechanism is down, so the back wouldn't open up. And so like he takes that off and he looks and he's like, oh. He shuts it. And then you see red just like dripping down. Yeah. So then he goes on a mission to try to find the cat. And him and the cat get into a fight. And we really don't see much of anything until the producer comes and he walks into the like makeup area and he's like, Valentine, how did it go last night? And you know, whatever. And Valentine's not responding to him. And he's like, oh, what is it? Cat got your tongue? Well, and then we see that, yes, a cat does have his tongue. His cat is actually laying there, like, chewing on his tongue. And, like, you know, then the makeup chair swings around and Donald is, like, face just all clawed to shreds. And he's dead. What can you do? Anyways, after all of this, Mr. Frank is not like 100% like on publishing Wilbur's like collection of stories. He doesn't know who's gonna believe it or who's gonna read this, you know? So he tells Wilbur that, you know, he'll think about it, and he sends Wilbur on his way, and he keeps all of, you know, the documents and stories and everything. The big like folder that Wilbur had. So Wilbur's going back on his way to his house, but something is off. Like, Wilbur feels that he's being followed, which, I mean, he is. I mean, there's like a whole, like, you know, gang of alley cats that follows him, and, you know, he goes to go down the stairs, and there's some standing there hissing at him, and then there's some at the top of the stairs standing hissing, and they all start attacking him, and he falls to the, you know, to the ground, and unfortunately dies. And, well, Frank, seems as his cat has some mind control. So Frank is, you know, being controlled by his cat. His cat hypnotizes him or something into throwing all of those documents into the trash. Not in the trash, into the fire. Goodness. Into the fire. Just blaze. And then to also go get him a bowl of milk. Because, I mean, you know, he's thirsty. And he knew that Frank wasn't going to do it on his own free will, since he said that he was fat. So that's the Uncanny. I really, again, think you should go see it for yourself. It's a fantastic movie. I didn't realize that it was like an anthology type, you know, until like I got into watching it. And that made me really excited because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a good, you know, hour and a half, like, long story. But little small horror clippets that are, you know, 15, 20 minutes each. They're some of my favorites. I mean, come on. Who doesn't love Creepshow? Am I right? Am I right? I want my cake. Anyways. We'll probably talk about the Creepshows at a later date because, like I said, adore them. Adore them. So this was for kitty cat horror. I actually did watch another cat horror movie. Well, what I was hoping was a cat horror movie. Focused more on the playboy, like, weirdo guy making a collection of heads, and it did the cats. I mean, the cats ate the body of his victims and then, you know, killed him. But, I mean, all in all, if you're gonna name a movie Night of 1,000 Cats, can I at least get more than 6 minutes of cat footage? Okay, maybe it was a little more than 6, but, I mean, come on. Night of 1,000 Cats. I don't want to hear about this playboy who's, like, putting his stuff into every girl in town and then cutting heads off people. It was terrible. It was a bad movie. Horrible. Ticked me off. Anyways. Go watch The Uncanny on Tubi before it gets taken down. That's all I have to say. Until next time, have a good night, sinners. Bye.